everybody asks, oh, how big is your company? And what do we all answer? Almost every one of us says, oh, we're 17 million or we're 23 million or whatever it is. Revenue is only one measure of a business, and I'll contend it's one of the worst measures of all in determining the size or the health or the efficacy of a business. It's easy to generate low margin revenue that can make that number look really good, but if the margin's not there to support it, you can literally sell yourself into trouble or ultimately sell yourself out of business. You would rather have a little bit lower revenue, but have the right margin mix inside what you've sold to customers. And we all get excited, sales is exciting, and we all get excited to drive revenue. It's that thing at cocktail parties, especially among entrepreneurs, that we all talk about and share. But if you're not super diligent about the margin side of the business, it can create massive problems. And the way to think about revenue and margin is to really watch how a dollar flows through a company and ultimately how it ends up on the bottom line. For every incremental dollar of new revenue, what falls to the bottom line is totally a factor of what the margin is inside the business. So we like to use 55% gross margin as sort of the, what we call the Mendoza line. The brand promise of Gazelles is any business can have software-like margins. I was in the call center business, which is incredibly people intensive. We ultimately got to a 61% gross margin in that business. So I think if you can do it in the call center space, there's lots of other opportunities in other businesses to do it. And one of the things that really drives margin opportunity is using differentiated strategy. So if you're in a business, in an industry, and you're like everybody else, then you're like everybody else. And you can get incrementally better or worse by controlling the cost side of the business. But that's not really the approach to drive margins that beat industry averages by 2 and 3 times. There's a great example, and I can't use the company name because it's confidential, but we were doing a YPO summit a couple months ago, and there was a customer in the audience that was one of the most commoditized businesses on the planet. They actually sell steel to construction sites. So, like literally the definition of commodity. And they had software-like margins in their steel business, and everyone in the audience wanted to know how, and they told a great story. They would bid a job, the general contractor would come in and they'd say, all right, we're gonna buy your steel, and we're gonna do it at this price, and the margins were ridiculously low, but you made it up in volume, obviously selling a lot of it. But those contracts, those general contractor contracts, a lot of them had penalty clauses in there. And if the steel didn't come on time, or the concrete didn't come on time, or whatever happened and the job was delayed, there would be massive penalties that the GC, the general contractor, would have to pay. So these guys decided, well, instead of selling to general contractors, what if we sold to other steel manufacturers and providers? What if we sold to the companies that are selling to general contractors? And our brand promise is, if you're going to miss a deadline and you're going to get big fines, we have steel ready to go. We can sell it to you right now, and you can avoid the fines and the penalties. Their brand promise is actually when you needed it yesterday. So they completely eliminated the bid process. There's no bid when you're out of steel and you're facing $1 million a day fines and you need it, and these guys have it. There's no price negotiation. There's no long drawn out contract process. They literally went from 3 to 6 months to sign up clients to literally minutes or hours on the phone, and their margins are through the roof, and that gives them the ability to run their business in a completely unique way. So any business can achieve software-like margins. You just have to come at the strategy from a completely different direction. If you're gonna do it like everyone else in the industry, you run the risk of being commoditized. That's not strategy. High margin businesses typically have differentiated in some unique way around the strategy that gives them pricing power, which the fastest way to drive margins is through price improvements, and it cuts their costs. So we all should be at cocktail parties not asking what's your revenue. We should all be asking what's your gross margin in your business, because that's the one that really drives everything.